Welcome to our session. This is going to be a fast and furious type of session. It's 1 hour long, and this is the quarter two, the curriculum for 6 through 8 for quarter two. My name is Edgardo Carrion, and I'm one of the coordinators for 6 through 8 in the mathematics department. And with me managing the chat.
Hi, everybody. Jackie Malone here.
Okay, so we're going to start right away because I want to get you out in this 1 hour. We're going to try to make our best with our time. So to start off, we're going to go into this first survey. School leadership, they gave us this task that from here on, they want to hear your opinion about Eureka or Carnegie. So if you don't mind, just go ahead and scan the QR code or go to this bit.ly. I know that it says SILT is the same form regardless if it's SILT or if you are a teacher. Okay, so I'm going to move on. You can take your time with that survey as we just give me that time to introduce our very, very short team. These are the three main people in charge of secondary math. Jackie and I, we manage 6 through 8, including the honors courses. And then Julie is in charge of Algebra 1 and other high school courses. So if anything comes your way that needs Algebra 1 attention, Julie is your point of contact for any other concerns or opinions in terms of the assessments or items regarding curriculum. Feel free to reach out to Jackie or myself. Find 4 words and then figure out how these 4 words are connected. Okay, so if you didn't get one, and I'm giving you this just a cheat sheet, right? So buzz, cluck, meow, oink. Hot drinks, chai, cocoa, coffee, tea, and the tree, yes. And then inside info, dirt, dish, scoop, skinny. There we go. Thank you for participating on this opening activity really quick. Our agenda is going to be mainly 2 big points. Know the curriculum resources for quarter 2, and then another big rock, learning those differentiation strategies, engagement strategies, or concrete experiences within the curriculum. It seems like, those administrators walking in and out your classrooms. And when I say administrators, it can be, principals, EDs, superintendents, and all of those and above, right? So whenever they're coming into your classrooms and observing, one factor that is common is lack of concrete experiences before jumping into the lesson. So that's one of the big rocks we have for tonight. In terms of the learning goals for this session, we have only 2. I'm learning how to locate the tools for this quarter 2, and I'm going to identify where those engagement strategies, concrete learning experiences, and differentiation ideas are within our lessons, okay? And in the same way, our success criteria, it goes, I can identify and locate those tools, and I can identify those engagement strategies and so forth. Okay, so let's get going with the first one. Jackie will put on the chat the link for this one page with the resources. This page, you can save it. You can star it in your Google Drive, and it will give you just a quick access to quarterly calendars, to the module overview for module 3, of course. It'll give you a quick access to PLC protocols, YAGs, topic overviews for 6 through Algebra 1, some anchor charts, quick links, the TIGs for lessons, topic 1 for 6 through Algebra 1. It'll give you the focus IPCs, all the 10 weeks, for 6 through Algebra 1, okay? So scan the QR code or go using this bit.ly to get access to this quick reference page, okay? Moving on, okay, so we have different things that we have to consider when planning our lesson plans, right? Among those pieces, while designing your lessons, we have to consider all the different subplots that you may have in your group, those populations like, ELLs, you may have some 504s, you have some special ed, you have, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 type of students, right? And there's resources for each one of them. So have in mind that within Clever, you have this particular resource called Elevation. Elevation has a ton of ways, strategies, ideas on how to get our students engaged, how to get our students to talk, how to get our students involved in the learning, okay? So it's a digital tool and it's accessible through Clever, and everyone in the district K-12 has access to this Elevation. So in terms of curriculum resources, for mathematics, for tier 1 instruction, we have Eureka, which is Great Minds. We have Carnegie for 6 through 8, Algebra 1. And then we have for the upper courses, we have McGraw-Hill. At this point, some other resources for upper grades, talking specifically Algebra 2 and Geometry, McGraw-Hill is still in the process of getting the license. We just finished the year with the license, and now we're getting into buying another set of years. So pre-cal is McGraw-Hill. For tier 2 instruction, we have iReady for K-8. Imagine Learning. Jonathan, I know that you were wondering when we met last time if Imagine Learning was also for 6-8, and the response is no. It's only accessible for 9 through 12. So Algebra 1 and above have access to Imagine Learning.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we know already. We know how to access the curriculum, and if we don't, here's the bit.ly that Jackie will put on the chat briefly for you to access through Clever and then access the curriculum resources this way. If you don't want to go that route, you can just scan this QR code and it will take you to that resource page that we just showed you a moment ago. When you go to Clever, you go to content departments right here on the top, on the tabs on the top, and then it'll go to math department. Once you get on the math department, you will get to this spreadsheet, and you want to access to that spreadsheet, just click on this arrow in the corner, and that will give you access to that spreadsheet for all the grade levels if you are at a campus that is K-8. Okay, so let's talk about Carnegie. In terms of Carnegie, we got to see how is the structure of it. So when we say Carnegie, curriculum from Carnegie starts from the YAG. What does the year at a glance looks like? Well, the year at a glance will have pretty much from 4, maybe up to 6 different modules. Okay, so the year at a glance, no matter what course it is, 6 through 8, it'll have 4 through 6 modules. Okay, once you go down, we have the quarterly calendar. Okay, the quarterly calendar will have pretty much like 1 to 2 modules. Okay, 1 to 2 modules. And then the quarterly calendar is going to be formed by the focus IPCs. The focus IPCs will have these many weeks. In this case, for quarter 2, it has 10 weeks. Every IPC will have maybe covering 2, maybe 5 different topics, okay? In terms of lessons, every focus IPC will have lessons, and these lessons will be formed maybe no more than 3 days. So every lesson in Carnegie will be formed by 1 or maybe 2 or 3 days long. Whenever we talk about the lessons, at the end of the lessons within the IPCs, we might get across the mid of topic assessment or the end of topic assessment, okay? And then at the very end, you will see that, well, the lessons will have sometimes explicitly what concrete experiences students should have within the lesson. And these concrete experiences may not be every day, but maybe once or twice or 2 of those experiences per week, okay? And then keep in mind that the materials are going to be listed, you know, from the module overview. If you read the module overview carefully, you will see somewhere right there what kind of materials you're going to be needing throughout the module. If you go down, the topic overview will also have listed all the materials for the lessons within the topic. And then within every lesson, the teacher implementation guide, the TIG, will have also a short list of the materials for the lessons that that you're covering at that time, okay? So the materials are always listed from the module overview, the topic, the lessons are going to be right there accessible.
Once we see those concrete experiences, then that's when we know what materials we need, right? And so we need to know that at the quarterly level to be able to get ready for all the materials that you may need, right? So we want to take a look at where can you find those materials? If you haven't had a chance to read your module overviews, because I know at the beginning of school, we're just trying to get into the lessons and, you know, get ready to teach every day. But one document that's really valuable is the module overview, and then we'll take a look at also the topic overview. That's where you'll be able to see that information on what concrete experiences do you think there will be in the module. So here you can see the module overview is not very long. It's really only 4 components. The why is the module even named? It has this certain name. Then what's the math? Then the prior learning, and then the post learning, if you will, the future learning. Well, when they talk about the math section, and you'll see that students will use physical representations to model addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of integers. So they're going to need physical representations so that they can develop the fluency rules. So they're not just trying to memorize them, but they make sense. Then they talk about the 2 models in the second topic using number lines and counters. We can also take a look at the topic overview. The topic overview is a little longer. It goes into more depth. They talk about what is the entry point in this particular topic. They're talking about the prior knowledge of number lines coming from K5. They should have a good working knowledge of just how a number line works. They might not know what's to the left of 0, you know, they shouldn't really have any idea of negative numbers yet, but that's the whole point of, we want to push them that in that direction when they're talking about the moving beyond positive quantities, right? So again, this page is a little bit long. This overview is a little bit longer. Here, when they talk about demonstration, there's quite a few of these where they're going to need materials so that they can demonstrate. And this is a different take on demonstrating than what we have typically thought in the past 10 years of DOLs. Right? In the past, we've kind of wanted like 3 or 4 multiple choice questions for a DOL, and that's really not what this part is talking about. They're truly talking about it in the most conceptual way of demonstrating that they're learning something. Then in the 3rd page, they'll talk about the materials that you'll need for that topic. And so this is a comprehensive list. And if you don't have some of these things, you're always free to substitute. And then the last page will give you different representations that you should see throughout the topic. And typically they'll build. They'll build from concrete using the 2-color counters and build to the abstract. So as they're learning the integer rules, you'll move away from the counters, but you may still have some of your tier 2 or tier 3 students that need those counters because they still haven't quite developed that fluency yet, or that understanding of how the positive and negatives work, or how zero pairs work. But this also gives purpose for why we need negative numbers, also for the coordinate plane. So if you haven't checked out the overviews, this is a good place to give you that comprehensive look, so you're not trying to dig into each lesson individually and then try to compile your own list. Can you kind of come off mute and share what's been your experience with the topic overviews and or module overviews? Kind of how do you use them? Have you had a chance to read them? And how has it shaped your teaching? I think everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what to say. I skimmed through them. I don't think they're that useful for me. I think the content is pretty self-explanatory or self-evident in my case. But yeah, I'm glad they're there. I just, I skimmed through them and then that's it.
Okay, well, maybe the materials list might be the most helpful to you then. I know for me, last year with the pilot schools, I was sharing with Silt last week that we were doing a demo lesson, and the purpose of that one lesson, I was kind of getting a different take on it. But then after the lesson, and we read the overview, and I had a chance to realize that the purpose of all of the lessons, kind of the arc of lessons, was all to tie in the thread of constant proportionality. And if I just looking at that one lesson, I didn't really glean that from it. And I think I would have planned the lesson differently had I kept constant proportionality at the top of my head, in the forefront, as opposed to sort of an afterthought. And so that's just my own personal experience. If that can help somebody, if that can help one of you, because I definitely would have missed that mark in that one lesson. And maybe it would have helped the kids better if I would have kept that along with each of those lessons. It was like 4 or 5 lessons.
Okay, so what we saw before this slide is the module overview will have a list of what kind of a concrete experience students may have on some of the topics. It may have a list of the materials that we may need, throughout the topics. But then when we go down to the topic overview, those are more specific. So it'll give you probably the specific activity that it'll take place in one of the lessons within that topic. It also will have listed the materials for those specific lessons. After that, then when do we get to see this specific lesson? So the Focus IPC will have listed on the bottom, right where it says structure lesson. You will see there that there's a link to the teacher implementation guide. Okay, and that's where the lesson is. And you will see how the materials are going to be listed and what kind of activities, concrete activities, if any, are going to be used or expected to see in the lessons that you have at hand. Next. So just as an overview right here, we will share this slide deck, but this particular slide is just a summary of how the scope and sequence is structured, how the YAG, the quarterly calendar, and the weekly Focus IPCs are structured. So this is just a very brief summary how these documents are interconnected, okay, in a way, before we go into the more granular pieces. But these 4 documents are going to give you information about concrete experiences, maybe what kind of models, what kind of terminology, vocabulary, how long is the module, how long is going to be a topic, how many lessons the topic has. All of those pieces are going to be shared on any of these 4 documents. Next. So this is the first reflection that we have. I can identify and locate the tools for quarter 2. This next success criteria, I can identify where the engagement strategies, concrete learning experiences, and differentiation are incorporated into the lessons. Next. So let's get to work. On this next activity, we're going to use, this is when you get to your classroom. These are the resources that you can use. If you don't have masking tape, you can use a piece of yarn. Or maybe if you don't have any of those, you can use just a dry erase marker and a very long whiteboard, okay? If you don't have none of that, you can just use something on the floor where you're gonna use and create an open number line. Okay, we're going to use sticky notes or index cards, and all you need after that is your classroom clock. Let's go to the next one. Go ahead and take one man, just drag it and put it in the middle of the number line, the open number line. Take a sticky note and one of those black little men's, put it on top. On the sticky note in blue, go ahead and type in the time that we have at this precise moment. So 4:45, 8. Okay. That is going to be our 0 in the number line. Okay. I'm going to ask now, Matt, go ahead and take one of the men's and then one of the cards and place it 2 hours from now using that number line. Where do you think the men in black should be standing at 2 hours from now? Go ahead and type in the time. That will be 6:48. Okay, Miss Anderson, you can see this. Miss Anderson, Jackie will do it for you, but you're going to tell Jackie the time. If I ask Miss Anderson to move the man and place it 3 hours ago from 4:48, where do you think Jackie should place the man in black? And then what time would that be then? Or what time was it 3 hours ago?
1:48.
1:48. And Jackie will place the time right there. So Matt, if I ask you to take another man in black and place it 1 hour and 30 minutes after 6:48, what time would that be then? By that time? An hour and 30 minutes after 6:48. What time would that be? Uh-huh. So there you go. Excellent. So I am using, imagine that in the classroom, I have my number line on the floor with masking tape previously made, right? And then I have index cards. I can have index cards just with letters, A, B, C, D, A, you know, whatever letters you want. And then you can start naming, giving those cards out to students so they can move around the classroom using the number line, moving up and down. And this way they'll be investigating time as they move to the positive side of that number line or to the negative side of that number line, considering that the number in blue is my now time, is going to be my 0. So I can allow my students to start thinking about negative numbers, right? And its opposites at the same time, positive numbers. So positive integers, eventually we're going to move on to rational numbers, right? So this activity is a concrete activity for them to do in the classroom, okay? And it's very simple. If you don't have, masking tape, just get a piece of yarn. That way you can do it on the floor. They can get to move, or you can do it just on the whiteboard. Draw that number line, open number line, and then give an index cards. And students can still move back and forth using that number line. Just a very concrete experience before you go into the more abstract type of lesson. Now, this lesson came from 6th grade. It's going to be on week number 6. Okay, and those are the resources, the materials, and the activity for them to investigate. Okay, this activity is integer operations. So I would ask someone to show me just dragging those counters, the red and the yellow. The red would be like negatives, and the yellow would be representing a positive integer. So if I say 2 positives plus 3 positives, I will drag 2 yellows. And then I'm going to add another 3 yellows, and that will give me the sum of 5 positives. I could have done it differently. I could have said, well, give me 4 positives plus 3 negatives, and that gives me what? Okay, so I said 2 positives plus 3 negatives. That gives me what?
-1.
-1. So remove, because I said 2 positives, Jackie. Remove 2 of them.
Okay,
There
sorry.
we go.
4
2
positive.
positives and then add 3 negatives. Now, what makes a positive and a negative? How do we call that? When you have a positive and a negative, that makes a 0 pair. Okay? So that cancel out the first pair, and then we have another 0 pair, a positive and negative, that cancel out, right? And that leaves us with only a negative integer, okay? A single negative, and that's going to be our response, my answer, right? So this, you can use maybe pieces of construction paper, different colors, and you can name it, the positives and the negatives. They don't need to be yellow and red, but they need to understand where they're coming from. Okay, let's get back to the main slide deck, Jackie, because it's 4:55.
And we have till 5:15, right? 4:15 to 5:15.
We have about 20 more minutes. So what is the intention of these 2 activities that we just work with? Well, these two activities are the process to take our students from the concrete experience, doing, moving, touching something,
Sorry.
and then moving them onto slowly into the pictorial, and then eventually into the abstract type of conceptual understanding. And here's the rationale, okay? Visual representations, such as math, drawings, diagrams, tables, or graphs, support the discourse, okay? Now, whenever you have a good mathematical discourse, students are going to be thinking. Students are going to be pushing back somebody else's thoughts, right? And that will lead into a very rich learning experience. Students will be more capable to connect what they saw, what they moved, what they touched, versus just going directly to the concrete, to the abstract form. So this rationale, it's a research found it, and then we invite you to always try to have somewhere in your lessons an experience where students can touch, move, manipulate, or visualize something that they can, make a connection to before going into the abstract form. When possible, try to do that. Let's go on to the next one, Jackie. Okay, so when we did those activities, we listed the resources, the materials that we might use. For color counters, I don't know if you have better ideas. If you don't have two color counters, use something else. Maybe I'm thinking two different type of color of objects. If you have geometric shapes, use something that they can touch, anything. Use whiteboards, cardstock, cut them in pieces, different colors. Use dry erase markers just to make it in a way that they can make a connection. Okay.
So we already did those.
Yes.
Sorry.
So the teacher implementation guide, the TIG, every lesson will have some way, in the lesson will be a differentiation strategy. You may have concrete experiences. Not every lesson will have this, but when you don't see something concrete, try to bring something more relevant to them, like a real world scenario. Try to see what engagement strategies we also can have within the lesson. Let's go to the next one, please. So keep in mind, for students to make a better connection and a better grasp of the conceptual understanding, they need to have some sort of a real world connection or engagement strategy or a concrete experience. If they do end up with any of these three pieces, students will make a better sense of the mathematics within the lessons. Whenever you do the annotation on your TIGs, when you do the math on your lessons, you will come across these three pieces, or maybe one of the three pieces. Highlight it, make a self note so you can, be aware that something is coming and prepare ahead, what students are going to be going through. Next. Now, Elevation, again, is a resource that we have in Clever. It's already purchased for all K-12. It has a very wide selection of activities or strategies to get our students engaged, to get our students involved within the learning. As you can see, they have more than 1,000 activities or strategies to get our students engaged and to make the learning, accessible to all the subgroups that we may have in the room. Next. So research says, you know, when you have students to go through the concrete, pictorial, and abstract experience, students will be more suitable to understand and to reach mastery. It's not me, is what research says. Now, there's a researcher called Dr. Bruner. He's considered one of the fathers of the concrete, pictorial, and abstract approach. So if you haven't read about Dr. Bruner, you know, I will invite you to do that in any spare time that you may have. Next, Jackie. Okay, we have done some work for you. Whenever you go into your TIGS, your teacher implementation guide, your lessons, you will see that they're already highlighted. Click, Jackie. We have on the TIG, you will find the materials for that lesson. If there's any hands-on activity, there's got to be some sort of materials here. You may see some pieces of that lesson highlighted, okay? Those sections are because we already identified some concrete experiences, maybe some engagement strategies for you to use. Yeah, Carnegie is not that good in a variety of engagement strategies. All they do most of the time is turn and talk, share with your partner, share with your table, you know, but there's so many other options how we can make our students to share out, right? We try to save you some time with the Focus IPC. Click, Jackie. So whenever you have your lesson already, you know, in front of you, your lesson will be already with some sort of differentiation strategies that are suggesting for this specific lesson. Click. Or the Focus IPC will have a couple of links that we have already there linked for you. So one of them is going to be the concrete experiences or engagement strategies, and they're already there for you. We've done that work. Please, you know, just take the time to investigate them, you know, whenever you're going through the Focus IPCs.
And I will say, Ms. Anderson, that Eureka, for the elementary, they've done the same. So you'll see those links for Eureka as well.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the Focus IPCs, if you see the concrete experience, the engagement strategy, they're going to be right here. Whenever you click on any of these two links, it'll take you directly to the one section of the lesson where the concrete experience is listed, you know, explained to you. Next.
Okay.
Now, sixth grade, you know, we talked about counters. Sixth grade will have a couple of lessons and activities where they're going to be, you know, adding or subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So it's a great lesson. It's a great topic for you to use, you know, counters. Let them work with the counters. Eventually, you will move them away. You will move them away from the concrete, and they'll feel more comfortable with the pictorial, as you can see on these two lessons. Okay. Then if any of these two pieces, the engagement is not that good or the concrete experience is not there, well, let me see, what can I do in order to make it relevant? Try to find some sort of a real world connection. Okay, click, Jackie. So for 6 and 6 honors, this is what we have. You know, bring thermometers. Weather is changing now, thank God. Okay, so heat is behind us. Now we're going into a better, much better, more enjoyable type of weather. They'll see how the temperature will change. They will see some positives and some negatives there. If you want to bring some more real life, real world negative numbers, you know, this is just an image right here on the bottom left corner, the stock market. You know, stock market, is going crazy. It's going up and down, and it has some positives and it has some negatives. If you have some, students are more inclined to the engineering, show this image with the sine, the sin of x or the cosine of x. Okay, so here's just the real world connection. Next. So the reflection for this second piece is just a simple question. Matt or Ms. Anderson, I know that you are Eureka, Ms. Anderson, but what do you plan on doing? And the same question goes for Matt. What are you forthcoming? What are your plans for in terms of the engagement strategies or the concrete experiences for this next lesson? Let's say next week, or let's say a lesson for this week. Any reflection? What would be your next steps?
I don't know about my next steps, but my looking at my 8th grade lesson tomorrow, it's concrete, but it's not that concrete. It's still just pictures on a page, but it's asking me to compare, or asking them to compare speeds as a table, graph, or equation.
Okay.
So just comparing those 3 things. Not super concrete, at least not like a number line or something like that,
Correct.
but similar.
Okay. Yeah, something they can latch on, something where they let them experience first instead of going directly to the abstract, right? Any transition is good. Any transition in that end is going to be good. Okay.
What I would, if I may offer, Matt, for something like that, since, like you said, is to bring the real world. So if they're taking a table, if you're taking a graph, having them interpret the different values. Like if it's a coordinate grid, what does that point, that 1 point mean on the grid? If it's miles per hour, or if it's, dollars per bundle, if they're buying something with it, just whatever type of rate. But if they just say it a couple of times for the different values, that helps bring some context.
Yep.
I was just gonna let them drive my car and see how far they could get, and compare speeds and stuff.
Everything will be fine. It'll be fine. Right?
That would be interesting, though.
I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
It's concrete.
That's
Well,
great.
definitely.
Very concrete.
Absolutely. Okay, Jackie, move on to the next one. Okay, so final comments. The big rocks for this very fast and furious type of session is more about an invitation. Let's try to see where a concrete experience can fit in within the lesson. We know that we get to hear a lot. Let's try to implement Carnegie with fidelity. But that doesn't mean that we do everything that we have the way they have it. If we can shorten an activity, or if we can modify the activity and make it our own, make it our, put your own spice to it, everything is valid. As long as we stay within what they recommend us to do, I think we're good.
Oh, you froze.
Go ahead, Ms. Anderson.
You're breaking up. No, you're breaking up. You froze for a second or two.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's probably the internet somewhere. Yeah, Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so let's try to and interject with some sort of hands-on, when possible, hands-on type of activity, or maybe a discussion. Maybe bring in a video and have a discussion before going into the lesson. That way, students are going to be more prone to jump into the learning, with a better attitude, and maybe more willing to learn and eager to know more about the lesson that is upcoming.